What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the CotAcasT. My name is Brian Bermudez, and I'm the host of the Craft of the Air podcast, the aviation podcast that expands your knowledge in each episode. Join us as we explore the untold world of aviation together. I'm so glad that you guys are tuned in for another episode of the CotAcasT. Not because we're on video now, but because we have such a uniquely interesting topics that I found in aviation this week. A lot of interesting topics that I discussed with some of my students in a lot of classes that I've had this week. So many classes this week. Summer session really does. If you didn't watch that previous episode of the CotAcasT, go back and watch it or listen to it. I had some of my students on that CotAcasT, and the summer semester really for aviation maintenance, anything aviation. If you're taking college, summer session it takes a toll on you. But today's episode is going to be so much fun. You're listening or watching in the right place. A lot of interesting topics in aviation this week. A sonic scramble. An F-16 was scrambled in the DC area after an unresponsive plane was discovered in the airspace. We'll take a look at that, and a tragedy really in Virginia. We'll also take a look at a tragedy that a lot of people may have not heard of. And this was a couple of weeks old, but some new preliminary reports into a plane crash in Colombia. And this one, some possible good news. 4 children surviving this plane crashing. And get this was in the Amazon jungle in Colombia, the Amazon jungle. So we'll take a look at that, some possible amazing news coming out of that story. And finally, aviation airplane seats. Yes, it all over the news this week. Aviation seats, a very interesting study that I came across. It states that passengers don't upgrade their seats because of poor pictures. Yes, so maybe if we have more high resolution, better pictures posted on some of these websites, people will be more inclined to spend more money on upgrading their seats. I highly doubt it, but I mean, we'll take a look at this report. Staying with seats, Recaro. A lot of people know Recaro for luxury automotive seats, but they actually make a majority of aviation seats, and they have a new design, groundbreaking design by Recaro, and it's going to save some weight. It has manufacturers and airlines very interested. Interesting, kind of bizarre news with Asiana Airlines, and they're going to stop selling emergency row seats. This was after a very bizarre incident that took place with a passenger and opening an emergency door mid-flight. And finally, senators, U.S. senators are asking the FAA, are seats too small? First things first, today's episode of the CotAcasT is brought to you by Craft of the Air. With aviation maintenance training and consulting, CODA's a second you when you need it. Your personal aviation assistant for everything in the field of aviation maintenance. Stuck on ideas? Looking to facilitate advances in aviation maintenance? Consulting by CODA possesses unique resources to elevate your aviation projects to new heights. Our approach is rooted in personalized solutions that cater to each client's needs, and we provide comprehensive advice, detailed reports, and cutting-edge data on innovative solutions that really empower you to make confident decisions. A&P student, job placement or advancement exams coming up, look no further than Cram by CODA. We have a tailored approach led by certified A&P subject matter experts, and they ensure that you're fully prepared to excel in any aviation maintenance exam. And really got to visit the Craft of the Air website at www.craftoftheair.com. Again, that's www.craftoftheair.com today, and learn everything CODA can do for you. Craft of the Air, our craft is of the air. So now we jump right into it. One of the very first topics that we look at is this sonic boom. There's a sonic boom scare, really, that led to a really panic that ensued, and an investigation underway into the pilot's actions leading up. And so, they're we had this plane crash in Virginia, and this linked to this recent sonic boom. We had an F-16 that was scrambled because of an unresponsive small aircraft in the DC area. And when that F-16 was scrambled, it was going so fast that it created a supersonic boom, and it startled a lot of people in the area. According to reports by NBC Washington, the tragedy unfolded shortly after this F-16 created a powerful sonic boom, and it really caused significant alarm and concern amongst residents. And this was what really took the headlines. A lot of tweets going on, a lot of breaking news on a lot of news networks into this F-16 that was scrambled. A local resident was quoted as saying, quote, "We never expected something like this to happen in our quiet town," end quote. And it really it left shock and disbelief in the community, a very tranquil, usually a tranquil suburban area, and they were really profoundly impacted by everything that had gone on. Now, investigators delve into the crash. One critical aspect being examined is the state of the pilot's responsiveness. According to a report, it remains unclear when the pilot became unresponsive before the crash. But it turns out that he was unresponsive when this plane, or right before this plane tragically crashed. A pivotal timeline, and timeline is crucial in really understanding what took place and why the pilot became unresponsive before the crash. Now, authorities are meticulously analyzing available data, including communications records, flight data, trying to piece together everything that went on. An official was quoted as saying, "We're working diligently to determine what led to the pilot's unresponsiveness and a tragic crash that followed," end quote. And really now the focus lies on gathering evidence, conducting interviews meticulously, reconstructing the events to provide answers and closure to the affected families and that community after that sonic boom. Collective mourning and quest for answers are going to unite that community as they come to terms with everything that transpired that day. Investigation is going to continue, and the lasting impact of this Virginia plane crash, I see it undoubtedly. It's going to shape future discussions on aviation safety, really, and it really going to serve as a very important reminder of the importance of a comprehensive and rigorous safety protocol in the aviation industry. Hopefully we have a thorough understanding soon on what happened, and make sure it never occurs again. Going on from one tragedy to another, but this one possibly with some better news at the end of it. And preliminary reports revealing clues to survival and tragic Colombian Amazon plane crash. Yes, there was a plane crash in the Colombian Amazon. Now, preliminary reports released by the Colombian Civil Aviation Authority, it shed some light onto the potential survival of four children who vanished during a devastating plane crash in the country's Amazon region. And this is really an extraordinary story. It's really captured the attention of people, not only in Colombia, but beyond. Now, there's been an extensive military-led search operation in this very dense jungle that this occurred. And according to the report, now we go back to May 1st, and this flight tragically claimed the lives of every adult on board, including the pilot Hernando Morales. And the interesting part was that we had an indigenous woman on board, and she was carrying four children. And these four children were the ages from 11 months, they range from 11 months to 13 years old. And these are the four children that survived that plane crash. Their bodies were not found there. Now, looking into the tragedy, according to the report, shortly after takeoff from this remote community in Colombia, near the Amazon, the pilot contacted air traffic control, and he expressed the need to find an emergency landing spot. The distress call indicated that the pilot was experiencing engine problems. He was quoted as saying, "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday, 2803, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. I have the engine at minimum. I'm going to look for a field," end quote. And after the pilot had reported that the engine had regained power, they continued on the journey, but they encountered further trouble just less than about half an hour later. And the pilot was again quoted as saying, "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday, 2803, 2803. The engine failed me again. I'm going to look for a river. I have a river on the right," end quote. And then communications with this aircraft ceased. Now, unfortunately, the second engine failure proved too much for this aircraft. The plane eventually veered off course before disappearing from the radar and really leaving authorities with a really challenging search task. Now, despite immediate air and water searches, wreckage was not discovered until 2 weeks after the tragedy had initially unfolded. And finding this wreckage 2 weeks after the tragedy, it may have led to significant implications for the fate of these passengers, investigation, as a whole. Now, based on the report's findings, it's believed that the aircraft initially collided with trees in this dense jungle, and this resulted in separation of the engine, the prop, and the main structure before the vertical descent to the forest floor. And really disturbing images from the crash site, it depicted the plane's tail was raised and the nose and the front area were just severely damaged. I mean, some quite disturbing pictures, to say the least, right there. Now, it's interesting, if forensic examinations, they're still ongoing, but the reports suggest that the adults seated in the front of the plane, they suffered the fatal injuries. Conversely, the rear seats where the older children were located were less affected, and this potentially explaining the survival there. Now, search and rescue teams later discovered signs of life, such as footprints, a used diaper, and a baby bottle, and this is really fueling hopes that these children may have managed to evacuate the aircraft and navigate through the jungle on their own. Now, it's very interesting. Right now, the search effort is still undergoing. Over 119 Colombian Special Forces troops, 73 indigenous scouts, all in full swing, as authorities are tirelessly combing the area. And it's interesting, relatives of the missing children have expressed faith in their resilience, noting their familiarity with the jungle. I can't pronounce that word. However, there's still no editing on this. However, concerns remain about whether the children really understand, because they are very young, if they understand that the outside world is continuing to search for them, right? It's interesting. One of the grandfathers of one of the children, he shared his hopes during an interview with Colombia's Caracol TV, saying, quote, "Maybe they're hiding. Maybe they don't realize that they're being looked for. They are children," end quote. And so really, as the investigation unfolds and the search intensifies, this real extraordinary story of these missing children, it really serves as a testimony, and we'll see. The nation and the world is anxiously waiting for the news of their discovery, really clinging to hope, really, of a joyful reunion that will bring this really tragedy, a crippling tale, to close in the Colombian Amazon jungle. And we move on to some lighter news. We're going on to aviation seats now, and this is a must hear for anybody in aviation. and anybody in air travel, particularly on the first one, a recent study has revealed that high quality, get this, you're either listening to this, shaking your head, or nodding your head in agreement. But a recent study revealed that high quality photographs can significantly impact passengers' inclination to upgrade their flight experience. Yes, visual role. It really highlights the role that visuals play in enticing travelers to opt for premium services. It's very interesting. A study conducted by a leading airline industry firm examined the preferences of over 1,000 passengers, right? And this is from various demographics. And it focused on the impact of visual content, specifically photographs. And really, if it influenced the upgrading decision, and the results demonstrated a very clear correlation between the quality of the images and the likelihood for passengers to upgrade their seats. According to the study, passengers were 30% more likely to consider upgrading when presented with high-resolution images. And images showcasing the in-flight amenities, comfortable seating arrangements, personalized services, and it really shows the power of visually appealing photographs. It's interesting because I look at I do a lot of traveling. I look at hotels and look at hotels with my girlfriend, and we're looking at hotels. Of course, the picture quality is important. Me myself, I don't want to book a hotel that has too poor, resolution pictures where you could barely make out where you're staying. I don't want to do that, and I think the same may go with aviation. But for the most part, I would have to say that a majority of people know what they're going to get in economy, business, or first, if those are options on your flight. And that being said, more people I think now are more money conscious in comparison to pre-pandemic. Dr. Emily Thompson, a renowned psychologist specializing in consumer behavioral, she commented on the significance of the findings. She was quoted as saying, "Our research indicates that the images play a crucial role in shaping passengers' perceptions and aspirations. High quality visuals have the ability to evoke emotions and generate anticipation, driving individuals to seek out enhanced travel operations." Very interesting. The CEO of a major airline, John Stevenson, he emphasized on the importance of leveraging high quality photographs in marketing campaigns. He was quoted as saying, "In today's highly competitive aviation industry, it's essential to engage in potential passengers on an emotional level. Captivating visuals have the power to create aspirational desire for enhanced journeys and ultimately increasing the likelihood that passengers choose to upgrade," end quote. So it's very interesting. Aviation industry is going to continue to evolve, and I'd say that passengers' expectations are going to continue to rise as well. Airlines are going to you have to prioritize the use of really captivating, really good photographs in their marketing strategies and the marketing materials. Really making it evident in this case. Study served as a reminder, really in the digital age, a reminder where visual content really reigns supreme, that a picture is truly worth 1,000 words, really. Potentially thousands in upgrade fees. Going on to our next aviation news, Recaro unveiling a groundbreaking new seat, a premium economy seat. Yeah, what's the need? We don't need to upgrade. We got premium economy over here. Recaro style. Recaro unveiling the seat PL3810, and this seat, get this, delivering 10% weight reduction. Yeah, leading aircraft aviation seat manufacturer Recaro, they unveiled their latest innovation, the PL3810, and this is a premium economy seat. This was at the Aircraft Interiors Expo 2023. This groundbreaking seat is going to offer, check this, enhanced comfort in economy. You don't need to upgrade. In economy, and amenities for passengers, and is also going to boost really the important bit here, a significant weight reduction, and in some cases up to 10%. That's that lightweight, this mark that Recaro is setting with this lightweight premium economy seat. It's a major milestone in the industry, a major milestone for a seat. And airlines are now more than ever seeking ways to optimize fuel efficiency and to reduce operating costs. So this seat, this Muse that may seem somewhat small, is pretty big. Recaro's commitment to engineering excellence and passenger-centric design is really evident in this PL3810 seat. It's a beautiful seat, really. Beautiful, beautiful seat. John Smith, Recaro's chief design officer, expressed his enthusiasm for the PL3810 seat, saying, quote, "We're thrilled to introduce the PL3810 Premium Economy seat, which combines cutting-edge designs, passenger comfort, and remarkable weight reduction. This innovative seating solution exemplifies our dedication to providing airlines with products that offer real premium value and exceptional passenger experience." That's a great quote by John Smith, the Recaro chief design officer. And it's interesting, if we look at the numbers, the PL3810, the seats weight reduction, it's made possible through a utilization of advanced materials, engineering methods, and Recaro's investment into research and development. It allowed them to really leverage this cutting edge technology, and that resulted in that seat being delivered and performance and efficiency in the PL3810. Looking at the numbers according to industry data, that 10% weight reduction in premium economy seats, it can potentially result in fuel savings up to 1.5% on long haul flights. This is going to translate into significant, substantial cost savings for the airlines. And this is, again, particularly in an era where fuel expenses constitute significant portions of operating expenses. So it's very interesting developments from there. With that introduction of that PL3810, that premium economy seat, Recaro, they're going to continue to push the boundaries of aircraft seating going forward, and really setting new industry, industry standards in comfort, efficiency, and really the overall passenger experience. Now we go on to South Korea. Some interesting news in South Korea. In South Korea's Asiana Airlines suspends sales of the emergency exit seats, and this was following some pretty bizarre safety concerns after a bizarre safety incident. And this was in response. South Korea's Asiana Airlines decided to suspend sales of the emergency exit seats on all its flights. This decision came after the airline was faced with a lot of criticism for allegedly assigning the seats to passengers who were not physically capable to perform the required tasks in case of an emergency. Asiana Airlines, they're really aiming to prioritize passenger safety, and they need to really ensure that those seated in emergency row seats meet that requirement, or that criteria for assisting in the event of an emergency. But for now, they've ceased sales of those emergency exit seats, and really the controversy surrounding the allocation of emergency exit seats arose when a passenger was assigned with an exit row seat. He admitted to not being familiar with the evacuation procedures during a recent flight, and the incident raised concerns really about the airline's adherence to safety regulations, and it prompted an investigation by the South Korean Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transportation. And as a result of this investigation, Asiana Airlines really they made the big call, and a good call in my opinion. They decided to halt the sales of emergency exit seats until further notice, and the airline is now reviewing their policies and procedures related to allocation of those seats. It was interesting. The Asiana Airlines spokesperson emphasized the airline's commitment to passenger safety, stating, "We take passenger safety as our utmost priority, and we're currently conducting comprehensive reviews of our safety protocols to ensure that passengers seated in emergency exit rows are fully aware of their responsibilities during an emergency evacuation," unquote. And it's interesting. Emergency exit seats, they're strategically positioned in the aircraft to facilitate with swift and efficient evacuations in the event of an emergency. Now, passengers seated in these roles, they're required to meet requirements, to there's certain criteria, such as being physically fit, mentally capable of understanding instructions in the language of the flight. It's interesting. According to data from South Korean Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transportation, a total of 10,566 emergency exit seats were available on domestic and international flights operated by Aviation Airlines last year in 2022. Over 10,500 emergency exit seats. So this is a big call for an airline to stop selling all these seats. 10,566 emergency exit seats. And you multiply that by all the passengers that will fly on that in a year. But commendable by Aviation Airlines in their pursuit, passenger safety remaining a top priority for the airline, and Aviation's decision to suspend the sale of these emergency seats, it really reflects the industry's commitment to maintaining a high safety standard, and again, going back to ensuring that passengers are adequately prepared to handle those responsibilities in an emergency situation. And will be interesting to see how long or what becomes of that decision by Aviation Airlines. I wonder if other airlines will take suit and follow along. And finally, one of the last topics that we go through, we're staying with seats. As promised, seats did make a majority of the topics in aviation this week, and two U.S. senators, Democrats, Senator Tammy Duckworth and Tommy Baldwin, are urging the Biden administration to reevaluate cramped conditions of airplane seats. I'm smiling because I know a lot of people already feel as though our airplane seats are too small, and we always hear of talks on the possibility of them getting even smaller. Now, this proposed legislation would require that the FAA, or the Federal Aviation Administration, they conduct new evacuation tests, and these tests would have to be done under realistic conditions and really establish standards. And this is important because this will really establish a standards in considering seat sizes and the spacing. Senators' concerns centered around the passenger safety during really emergencies. That's why we go through this realistic conditions and testings that these two senators are urging the FAA implement. And during emergencies, really, the U.S. senators have a lot of dissatisfaction over travelers who have complained and find themselves in these tight spots, or these tight, really in coach classes. Senator Duckworth and Baldwin are seeking to address the issue of the seat size by advocating for more comprehensive and realistic testing conducted by the FAA. They argue that the previous evacuations tests that were conducted in 2019 by the FAA did not accurately represent the conditions faced by passengers. I might be onto something. I might agree with this. Tests involve only 60 participants between the ages of 18 and 60, but admitting senior citizens and individuals with mobility, disabilities, and the presence of carry-on luggage. Duckworth highlighted the need for simulations that accurately reflect the diversity of passengers on the aircraft, and she questioned whether the FAA already took into account the actual people who will be on board during testing. Senators argue that the FAA overlooked the realities of flying in America today and ignored crucial factors that could impact safety. And it's interesting because while the FAA declined to comment on the matter, passenger and safety advocates, they criticized these 2019 tests and the existing seat size standards. Organizations such as flyer rights and nonprofit groups, they've been unsuccessful in their efforts to establish a minimum seat size regulation, and concerns, really regarding the blood clotting, people that get blood clots due to cramped conditions and these challenges that are faced by flight attendants managing frustrated passengers, they've also been on the rise, all of these concerns. Some argue that, that a fully crowded modern cabin cannot be evacuated within the FAA's mandated time frame, which, by the way, is 90 seconds. The next time you're on a plane, look around you and picture that. 90 seconds? Airlines for America, an industry group representing major carriers, contended that additionally regulations on seat dimensions lacked factual bias and data supporting their necessity. And this is going back and referring to the 2019 test. The group argued that the FAA had already deemed existing seat configurations, size standards, and evacuation procedures to be safe. It's interesting. Really to conclude it, Senators Duckworth and Baldwin's efforts to review, airplane seat size and evacuation standards, that reflects their commitment, and it's commendable. Their commitment to passenger safety and comfort. It affects us all. By proposing legislation that calls for more comprehensive and realistic training and testing, it really aims to address the concerns of both passengers and safety advocates. And while the FAA has really previously defended the existing seat size standards, these senators are arguing that this update is necessary, and really necessary to ensure evacuation procedures are in line with the realities of today's air travel. Now, it's interesting. We discussed so much in today's episode, and really, as I wrote this episode and I went through it, really the main point or the importance that we see here is really aviation safety. The two incidents with the plane crash in Virginia, the sonic boom, and the plane crash in the Colombian Amazon region with the missing children. Both of these incidents prompt really intensive investigations into these crashes and the circumstances and the real need to uncover the factors that contributed to these tragic events. We emphasized on the importance of thorough investigations, implementing necessary safety measures, and prioritizing passenger safety in the aviation industry as a whole. And it's interesting the impact of high quality photographs on the passenger upgrade decisions, the introduction of lightweight premium economy seats by Recaro, the suspension of the sale of emergency exit seats due to safety concerns by Asiana Airlines. These topics are really going into that safety highlight of these two plane crashes, where in aviation, it's interesting. What steps do you believe should be taken to strike this balance of really efficiency, luxuries, and passenger safety as we embrace the advances of really an ever-changing aviation industry? How do we go about that? And that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the CotAcasT. I really thank you guys for listening to today's episode. Guys, if you guys have not done so already, take this opportunity to check out the Craft of the Air website at www.craftoftheair.com. And that's www.craftoftheair.com today, and get your free initial consultation. Craft of the Air, our craft is of the air. Comments or suggestions about this or future episodes, let's get in touch. Visit the www.craftoftheair.com website. You go to the contact tab and put in the subject CotAcasT. Thanks again, guys, for listening to today's episode of the CotAcasT. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the Instagram of the Craft of the Air Instagram, our Twitter, and now we have the YouTube channel coming to you live from the Coda Den. And subscribe for the latest CotAcasT and Craft of the Air updates. Please rate and review the CotAcasT. We're now streaming again: Spotify, Apple, Prime, Pandora, Google, YouTube, and all platforms. Again, thanks for listening. There's no editing on this. Straight up. Again, thanks for listening, guys. Have a great day. We'll be seeing you soon.